For this lesson, I'm asking you to reflect on what the word compliance means to you. What do you think of when you hear that word? Most people think of paperwork, audits, checklists, and a necessary evil. However, some of the most successful companies view compliance completely differently than that. Rather than seeing it as a burden to endure, they're seeing it as a strategic weapon that opens doors that their competitors can't walk through. So that's what we want to go over, is how strategic leadership can transform compliance requirements into competitive advantage to drive business growth. Peter Drucker's been called the father of modern management, and he said the best way to predict the future is to create it. You think about that for a minute. It's good to just kind of absorb that and think about that statement. It's a really good one. But it's directly applicable to compliance strategy. When organizations view compliance reactively or as something imposed on them, they're always playing catch up, scrambling to meet requirements, cut corners where possible, treating every audit as a threat to survive. Once we can just get through this audit. But organizations viewing compliance proactively are creating their own future. They're building capabilities that become barriers to entry for competitors and positioning themselves for markets that others cannot access. With strategic thinking, compliance frameworks like SOC 2, ISO 27001, HIPAA, and PCI DSS aren't just regulatory requirements, but they're market access passes. When you achieve these certifications, you're joining an exclusive club of organizations that can compete for business others cannot pursue. From the customer's perspective, when an enterprise buyer needs a vendor who can handle their sensitive data, they don't have time to evaluate every company's security practices from scratch. The compliance certifications are a filter. Who's in the conversation? The companies with SOC 2. And SOC 2 has become the de facto standard for software as a service, SaaS technology companies selling to enterprises. If you're in B2B software and you don't have SOC 2, you're losing deals you don't even know about. You're filtered out before you get a chance to pitch. ISO 27001 is your passport to international business. European enterprises often require ISO 27001 as a baseline. So if you want any kind of global expansion, this certification will remove friction that could otherwise take months to navigate. And if you already have it, you know what I'm talking about. The entire healthcare sector is opened up by HIPAA. And the healthcare sector is one of the most lucrative and largest markets in the economy. Because healthcare organizations are legally prohibited from working with vendors who can't demonstrate the HIPAA compliance. And if you touch payment card data, PCI DSS is not negotiable. But beyond the requirement, PCI compliance signals to partners and customers you're taking data protection seriously across the board. There are a lot of industry-specific frameworks. Examples are FedRAMP for federal government, CMMC for defense contractors, and various state-level regulations for financial services. When we think of those, we need to think of them directly as representing a market that's off limits to those who haven't invested in compliance. To approach compliance strategically and proactively, you need to align your compliance investments to your business goals. First, you want to choose frameworks based on where you want to compete. It's not a random pursuit, obviously. What markets do we want to enter? What customers do we want to win? And what partnerships do we want to enable? From there, you work backward to identify which compliance frameworks unlock those opportunities. The downloadable resource for this lesson is the Compliance Framework Selection Matrix. It maps the major compliance frameworks to the markets they unlock, typical timeline and investment required, and business opportunities they enable. You can use it as a starting point for prioritizing your compliance roadmap based on strategic value rather than regulatory pressure. Then you want to time your certification efforts for supporting your business expansion. If you want to pursue enterprise customers next year, start your SOC 2 journey now. If international expansion is on the 3-year plan, get ISO 27001 on your roadmap. Sometimes compliance certification can take 12 to 18 months for initial certification, and strategic leaders start early so the certification is ready when the business opportunity arrives. And then leverage your compliance investments across multiple frameworks. A secret that saves organizations time and money is that the major compliance frameworks overlap significantly. A strong SOC 2 program covers about 70% of what you need for ISO 27001, and HIPAA and SOC 2 share some common controls as well. So if you thoughtfully architect your compliance program from the start, you can pursue multiple certifications with incremental rather than redundant effort. So outperforming others means viewing compliance as strategic infrastructure, winning deals faster because compliance questions don't slow down the sales cycle, entering new markets sooner because the foundation is already built, and attracting better partners because you're easier to do business with. And you can also command premium pricing because you can serve the customers with more demanding requirements. So frameworks that feel like burdens are actually barriers that protect you once you're on the other side. Use the downloadable compliance framework selection matrix from this lesson to evaluate which certifications offer the greatest strategic value if you don't already know all of that for your organization. So you identify the markets you want to access, the customers you want to win, and the compliance investments that will get you there. Because in today's market, you're going to use your compliance readiness to outcompete your competitors or outshine them. In the next lesson, we're going to review building customer trust through transparency. We'll talk about why the old ideas of security through obscurity is no longer considered an appropriate approach today.